All right, welcome back to Morning Live, and I swear I have a very, very hilarious director. Mr. Raro, please come slowly. But again, I'm joined by Safia Virgin Studio from the Innovations Unit at the Kenya Red Cross. She'll be telling us about now the progress as far as innovations and all the projects are concerned. And karibu sana. And sorry for waking you up this early morning.
Hello.
I know you're used to 6 a.m., but now 5:30.
No, I have a 7-month-old, so I'm up
Oh,
all
okay,
the
you have
time.
to wake up.
Yeah,
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, when you talk about innovations and humanitarian activity, not so many people relate, but there's so much happening. You can tell us more about that.
Sure. So, as you know, the humanitarian activities of the Red Cross and other NGOs have been going on for years. But suddenly you see that the world is evolving, people's needs are changing, people have access to more information, more tools, mobile phones, for example. So the way you deliver humanitarian aid also needs to keep up and it needs to change. So, for example, how the cash transfer programming, how do we now stop handing out food and items and instead give people the freedom to choose what they want to buy through cash. So that in itself is an innovation, just the change in delivery of the mode of delivery.
Absolutely.
We look at the advancement of technology. How can we use some of the existing items or solutions that exist out there in the private sector? How can we contextualize it to fit the humanitarian sector? So one example of that is like the water purification systems or solar panels, for example.
Yes.
Those weren't existing about 5-10 years ago in vulnerable communities. Now they are because of innovative approaches.
Absolutely.
So
that's amazing. That's amazing.
So that's our approach, is how can we take things that already exist out there and make them fit for the humanitarian context so that we improve our service delivery.
Perfect. Now, when you talk about know-how, I understand innovations kind of are basically pointing to one area, maybe a few areas of difficulties. For example, water. Now, solar, that means there's enough supply of water, electricity. But the know-how, you see, innovation has to be hand in hand with something called know-how. Now, the people around innovation, are they taught on how to actually operate whatever they're being given? Are they taught on how to deal with the situation? How do you do that, actually, the training part?
So that's consistent through all of our programs. So even in the regular water projects, for example, or the farming projects, we always have that component of capacity building the community. So we build champions amongst them. So for example, now if you're talking about a solar panel borehole, solar powered borehole, we train what you would call an operator to learn how to switch on and off the power, or so things like that. Or if you're looking at using mobile technology to receive weather alerts that can now inform farming activities, you choose people within the community who you can now build in capacity to digest that information and now share with their other community members.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So which areas have you specialized mostly in your best innovations, what you think has been working so perfectly? Maybe you can tell us which areas.
So that's the thing about innovation, it doesn't work perfectly.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, it's a risk, right? Because you're trying something new. So we do a lot of pilots. We're actually a very new unit. Before we were working ad hoc. There are a lot of innovations happening in Kenya Red Cross, but now we've set up a unit that now centralizes all these new innovations so that we can learn from them and scale them. So something that we've done in the past, I think about 3 years ago, we looked at installing these smart fire sensors in Mukuru. So again, like I said, it's a risk, right? Because it was a new innovation. It was a new item that the community had never seen before. They didn't fully understand it. But the idea is that it prevents fire outbreaks from spreading rapidly, right? So instead of 1,000 houses burning, only 2 or 3 get affected.
Okay, interesting. Now, when you talk about fire sensors, how do they look? It's something conspicuous, something maybe micro?
It's about this size.
Okay.
It's about this size. It just has a light flashing just to let you know that it's on, and then it detects, like, let's say smoke or heat increase, and then it
emits the side.
Yeah.
Does it remit to the dispatch center? Or
so that's
like
the idea, yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
it makes a sound, so it lets the community, the household and the community around, and then the idea is that it also sends a signal to, let's say, our EOC or the fire brigade for a quicker response.
Interesting. Wow,
yeah.
That's interesting. Now, accepting technology has been a problem for so many people. We used to traditional ways of just dealing with issues. Now, as much as you're handling so many pilots, how has the maybe let's say the acceptance graph been for you? Because now, when you tell me I'm actually now, for example, I'm using this pad, and then now later on something else new will come to me. Now, change has been a problem for so many people.
Sure.
I'm used to something.
Yeah.
Now, for example, when you bring something new to my society, I'll really ask questions.
Yeah.
I've encountered difficulties.
Of course, especially when you're living in a city that's surrounded by new tech, right?
Absolutely.
But you go to a rural community that I think the most that they've seen or interacted with is a mobile phone, not even a smartphone. So it requires a lot of what you would call human-centered design, or human-centered approach. So essentially, it's like working with the community to extract their ideas and then providing them a solution that involves tech, but they feel they've had something to contribute to that final solution. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So
it does make sense.
they feel like they've had something to do with it. So the acceptance becomes more. It's not like I'm taking the pad and I'm giving it to them and using it. Yeah. You know, it's
an improvement of some sort. I understand.
It has some ownership to them. It's like what they've asked for.
Wow, interesting. Now, as Kenya Red Cross, maybe for example, first responders, there's so much happening in the society. And when you talk about innovations, as you've said, it's now becoming part of lives for so many people. Now, for you, where you're seated, are you confident that innovation will actually change the way humanitarian organizations actually work in the world?
Definitely. I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah.
As you know, the available funding for humanitarian activities is decreasing. So we have to be innovative in our approaches. We have to see what are low-cost solutions that can make the same impact. So we have to look for different ways to make the same impact even more impact.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, when we talk about clean water, yes, we talked about fire situations. Now, how is innovation now goes to, we have the basics of purification, you have the basics of maybe now scientific way of just making this water clean in one way or another. Now, how does innovation come in the clean water perspective?
Sure. So, okay, so I'm not a water engineer, so you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I have worked with the wash department. So we actually have one pilot that we're testing. We're going to start it this month. Actually, it's a water purification unit from Chile. It's developed in Chile, and it works at a very quick speed. And so basically, it takes the treated water and it filters it through a plasma process. So I think it's like high pressure, high intensity, and it somehow filters out the the particles, and then it comes out as very clean water. So, for example, that's something that we don't have right now. Right now, we're just using treated water. But now, through the purification process, it becomes even more safer to drink.
Interesting. Now, when you talk about locations, we have those hard-hit locations, like life is not easy. You know them, of course. You can maybe in the northeastern part of Kenya, life is never easy. And where you have actually initiated these pilot projects, do you think very soon, through your the outcome, the result of what you've had, you'll actually extend that support to various parts of the country? Yeah,
definitely. That's the idea, is that we conduct a pilot in a community that we can engage with that has an evident need for the innovation. And then once we have a proven use case, we can now scale it to other communities, and we can customize it to their needs. So, for example, a community in Makueni or in Kitui won't have the same needs as somebody living in Garissa or in Mandera. So we can see how to tailor the product or the solution so that it fits in with their needs, and it becomes something that they can interact with.
All right. When you talk about, for example, tropical diseases, we have, of course, issues maybe in our refugee camps. How has innovation now gone further in the medical sector to actually make a change?
Inside the medical
sector, actually.
In the medical sector.
Yeah,
so different ways. I mean, it also doesn't need to be technology driven. It can be a lot of behavior change, for example, an approach to behavior change. So, for example, if we're talking about something with hygiene promotion, so there are a lot of, like, diarrhea is a result of poor hygiene, right? So how do we now innovate an approach that promotes people to wash their hands more? So, like in schools, what we've done is we call them nudges, right? So how do you nudge somebody to wash their hands? So with students, when they leave the toilet, you know those stepping stones that we used to jump on when we were young? We paint them different colors, or you paint footprints on them. So as kids, you want to follow the footsteps to the washing facility, hand washing facility.
Interesting.
So, okay, that's not so medical, but now we're looking at how can we improve delivery of blood to hard reach areas. So is there a possibility of using drones, for example, like they're doing in Rwanda? Because somebody in Mandera, for example, can't receive blood unless they go, let's say, to a level 5 hospital, or
because I heard something about Kenya Red Cross starting a drone situation.
So we're
tell us more about that, because now that means you need to have AUV pilots actually.
Exactly.
You do have pilots in the Kenya Red Cross headquarters?
No, we need to train them.
Actually, now you know why I asked that?
Yeah,
So someone asked me about. Some military guy asked me about, now I hear Kenya Red Cross is starting something with the drones. I'm a Navy, although he's the military side, he's an armed guy, but still he's interested, for example, being a pilot at the Kenya Red Cross. Now for this situation, do you think it will be quick enough to solve this? Now you've mentioned blood donation issues. Now some areas actually are having a big problem in terms of now the blood bank. Now do you think the drones not only will be used for blood but also maybe drugs?
For sure, vaccinations.
Tell us more about that.
So, so the current legislation doesn't allow organizations, companies to fly drones, right? There's a big debate on that. But as an organization, we're getting ready for that point. So we're looking at how do we train pilots, how do we identify use cases where we can use drones, for example. So we can use it for blood delivery, we can use it for delivery of medication and immunization. We can use it for cargo delivery, first aid items. But then more frequently, we can use it for surveillance. So there's a disaster, we don't have to dispatch 10 volunteers to go to Solai, for example, to do the assessment. You just dispatch a drone, and within, half a day you have your assessment. And then you deploy as needed. So so it will really improve our response times.
All right. Thank you so much for coming to studio today. And first time on Switch TV?
Yes.
Absolutely. How do you see it?
Very nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're now on Dish TV, channel 262. 268 actually. So please watch Switch TV. Tell your family to watch Switch TV, because now it is the biggest thing right now in town.
Definitely.
So keep on actually supporting us, and good job you're doing. Innovation is also very good in humanitarian activities. We appreciate what you're doing.
Next time we'll take you down to the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah, the other side, hardship areas.
Exactly.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. But of course, you can continue playing Shinda or Shinde. You know, with only 50 bob actually, we have weekly winners. For example, now use the pay bill 69888, and of course you'll be 8888 69888. You'll stand a chance of winning so many prizes. And of course, the grand prize of 10 million bob. So continue playing. You're not taking a short break. When you come back, you want to measure Mara Sports. What happened over the week?